and all is still go as we monitor our status for it. Good luck and Godspeed.
Have you ever had a premonition, a feeling that something dreadful was about to happen?
No, Mother, I have not been drinking.
Do you happen to have a pair of birds that are just friendly?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
I have to go back into the past once more, just once more.
This is HitchPod, a podcast counting down the 20 best movies of the wonderful 20th century director Alfred Hitchcock. I'm Kat Jones, with me is Dan Lipke, and in this episode we're comparing the fifth best Hitchcock movie, The Birds, with the movie that the Oscars thought was the best one from that year, Tom Jones.
Tom Jones, yes. So, but before we get
No relation, by the way. No relation to me.
To you? No. But before we do get into this analysis of the unrelated Tom Jones, we will mention our cryptic crossword clue for the fourth best movie of Hitchcock, because we like to do that. We like cryptic crosswords. So we'll give you a little bit of a hint of what the fourth best Hitchcock film is, and the next movie we'll be rewatching, and you can try and work that out as we race through this episode. So the clue is to grieve endlessly and with abandon because of this movie. 7 letters. So to grieve endlessly and with abandon because of this movie. Have a crack at working that out as we get into Tom Jones. So Tom Jones, of course, is in 1963, same as The Birds. Has an IMDb rating of 6.4 out of 10, a Rotten Tomatoes score of 83%, and a Metacritic score of 77%, which translates to generally favourable.
How did they all get... How on earth did this movie get anything over 50%?
Don't know. This is usually where I'd put in a negative review for comedic purposes. Maybe we'll come back to that as we move further into this episode. Mm-hmm. It did win 4 Oscars. It won the Best Picture, Best Director for Tony Richardson, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Score, and there were lots of nominees for Best Supporting Actresses, 3 of them. That's the most for any movie, apparently.
That's insane.
Best Supporting Actor as well as Best Actor, 10 nominations in total. The Academy thought this movie was absolutely brilliant, loved everything about it.
I think the Best Supporting Actresses ones must have been related to their costumes.
I think so, yeah.
To their corsets?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that may have been where they were going. You can't easily stream this movie in any of the usual places, but you can rent it. You can pay some money and watch it.
Who are we kidding? No need to source this one.
No need to source this one.
Don't source it. Don't look for it. Don't find it.
Yeah, if you went looking, you would find a Criterion Collection disc where you could waste a lot of money on it and get interviews with directors and actors and editors and the like.
Do not do that.
Don't do that either. It does star Albert Finney. He plays Tom Jones, and he was in lots of movies over the course of his career. This was one of his first major ones.
He was very famous.
So he was in Erin Brockovich and a few Jason Bourne movies. He was in Murder on the Orient Express, so lots of movies. Susanna York plays Sophie.
Also very famous.
Yes, I know her mostly. She's Superman's mother, Lara, from the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and a whole heap of other minor characters too, but we won't get too bogged down of them. Those two are the love story, the main ones. And do we have a synopsis for this one?
The romantic and chivalrous adventures, that's a lie too, by the way, the romantic adventures of adopted bastard Tom Jones in 18th century England.
Yes, and it is based on the Henry Fielding novel from 1749, which was called The History of Tom Jones, a Foundling. Foundling's a good word.
Yeah, it is a good word.
They should have
called it the Foundling.
Yeah.
Anyway, this entire story should have remained in the 18th century.
Yes, but instead John Osborne adapted it for the film, and according to IMDb, he would also cameo as a priest in the movie Flash Gordon, and I think IMDb might have got this messed up. There must be another person named John Osborne who happened to be the priest. It seems very strange for a screenwriter to suddenly cameo as a priest in Flash Gordon, but maybe that happened. Let's say that happened.
And also that is a very boring fact, and it is the most interesting thing about this entire movie.
Yes. It is directed by Tony Richardson. He would go on to direct versions of Hamlet and Ned Kelly. I'm sure they're super and very good.
The style. What is the style of this, Dan?
It's an adventure/comedy.
And the humour is 99% slapstick.
Yes. It has the tagline of Tom Jones! ! Loves and loves and loves and loves.
That's a lie too. Lust and more lust and maybe some pretend love.
Yes. Well, if you do want to watch this movie, off you go now and have a look. You may be back here sooner than you think, but we will give a summary of the movie, right? Starting now?
Yes, a hilarious summary.
Yes.
Anyway, the movie starts in a kind of a silent movie format, and this is a bit of a prologue. It shows a baby being left on a bed, and the owner of the estate, the dude, fires the two servants he assumes are responsible for the baby, and he raises the baby as his own. And this is baby Tom Jones.
Yeah, I'm not sure any of that's legal. I'm not sure you could just say, oh, I'm going to claim this baby. Off you go.
I guess it was in the 1700s.
Perhaps it was. Anyway, we then cut to Tom. He's all grown up and he's just this horny, good-looking man. He's shagging some woman in the forest. This woman's name is Molly, apparently. But despite these antics, he's apparently in love with his next-door neighbour. This is Sophie. And Sophie's father thinks that as a bastard, Tom is unworthy of his daughter.
Mm-hmm. And we also learn that Tom has an evil stepbrother.
Yes, in good tradition there. And it does turn out that Molly is pregnant, and this becomes a bit of an early crisis for Tom because, as we mentioned, he is in love with Sophie. But it turns out she's hilariously got some other man on the side, and Tom is not the father after all, and that kind of ends that problem immediately.
It doesn't stop him shagging her later in the movie.
No.
I don't think. She does make another appearance.
Yep.
There's then a fight between all the women in the town, and this is in the cemetery with bones that they've presumably dug up.
Yes, it's very strange.
And that's then followed by, for no reason, an interminable hunting sequence that just never ends. And it does end. It ends with Tom rescuing Sophie from a runaway horse. Pretty sure the runaway horse is in fast motion as well.
Yeah, possibly.
And he breaks his arm, and then she falls in love with him when she has to look after him and his broken arm.
Yeah. And so that takes us to about half an hour into the film.
Yeah.
And this is about the point where we both officially started Googling worst Oscar winners and not paying much attention at all to what was on the screen, because this is just a terrible movie.
It is so bad. And it's hard to believe with all the terrible Oscar winners that we've already had to watch that this could be worse, but it is.
Yeah.
It is. It has no redeeming qualities at all.
No. We sat through like 3 hours of Around the World in 80 Days, which was dreadful. This is worse. This is way worse.
Easily the worst of them all. Loud, incoherent, unfunny.
Yep. Over the top. We speak for both of us because we discussed this as we were watching, kind of shock and awe. I would not have been surprised to learn that this was actually the worst movie of 1963. But no, the Academy decided it was the best one. And whatever they saw in it is completely lost to me, lost to time. I don't think anybody can explain this to me.
Feels like the Academy should just, about 20 years of its existence, should just be obliterated from history. They made a lot of bad decisions.
I think probably the best thing they should do is, rather than name they should take a 20-year break and just go, all right, we're not naming the best movie of this year. We're naming the best movie of 20 years ago, when they've all had a chance to calm down and have a think about it, see what's aged okay, and just go, all right, the best movie this year, they can go, all right, the best movie of 2005 was whatever, and get it right, because this is very, very wrong. So we were, anyway, Tom Jones had various adventures after this point. I mean, we don't really know what the plot was. We were not paying attention as we browsed these various websites, made cups of tea, chatted with each other. Like, we were barely watching at this point. I mean, a lot of it just seemed to be him shagging random women while simultaneously professing his love for Sophie. It was very strange.
It was so hilarious when he shagged someone 20 years older than himself.
Yeah.
The adventures were not entertaining at all. There were more fights as well. They were incomprehensible. Yeah. Anyway, the story ends with Tom Jones being revealed to be not a bastard son at all, and therefore somehow all of this shagging he's been doing and awful things he's been participating in are all redeemed. Yeah,
he lives happily ever after with Sophie, apparently. I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. So, this is just bad. So that's our plot summary. If you need to know more, I'm sorry, you're going to have to watch it yourself, which we do not recommend.
I mean, even reading the Wikipedia summary is not recommended. It's just, it doesn't get any better.
And I mean, I know these kind of bawdy sex romps are common in England, or at least were. Like I just don't understand the appeal of them at all. Then I don't find them ever find them funny. I don't. If they're supposed to be sexy, they're not sexy to me. No. They're just tiresome and dumb, and I just don't get it.
And the other bad thing about this was the movie was actually just really boring.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no plot. There was scene after repeated scene of people hunting things and then eating them in the grossest possible way. It could have been a silent movie. There was not much dialogue that mattered at any stage, and not one interesting character in the film.
No.
I mean, even Tom Jones had no charisma. He was just to use an Australian expression, he was just a root rat. Root being a different meaning, of course, in Australia to what it is in some other countries.
Yes.
But that's all he did.
That's all he did, yes. So we, as we mentioned, we did start searching for bad reviews of Tom Jones or reviews of Tom Jones, which, a good chunk of them were bad. There were
there were lots of good ones.
There were lots of good ones. Anyway, but the bad ones were interesting. I think the favourite one I found was one from slashfilm.com, which was doing like a list of all the worst Oscar movies, and I had little reviews of each of them. And so I'll read you this one because this was my favourite. Every movie on this list is tedious and uninteresting in its own way. The Academy is much too fixated on staid notions of propriety to award the kind of trash that's fun to watch. However, Tom Jones is one of the absolute least watchable things a movie can be. A comedy that isn't funny at all, directed by great English filmmaker Tony Richardson in maybe his least inspired work ever. The movie adapts Henry Fielding's 1749 picaresque novel, and though it was released in 1963, Tom Jones really does feel like something people could only possibly have found hilarious in the 18th century. So that's just great stuff from everyone.
That is great stuff. And the slapstick of it all was something that I feel like maybe a toddler might laugh at and perhaps still only watch for 20 minutes. But little tiny children might laugh at this. It's the sort of thing you see on kids, like not the sex, but the stupid slapstick.
Yeah. Do you think all the people in the Academy just said, Todd, let their children vote this year? Is that how it won?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe, yes. I did find another negative review that kind of tickled me. The movie is incomplete and botched in much of its execution. I'm not knocking that kind of success. Everyone should have it. But whenever someone gushes to me about Tom Jones, I always cringe a little inside. Do you know who that review was from?
Was it from Bosley Crowther?
It wasn't from Bosley Krause. It was from director Tony Richardson. So
oh, wow.
Even Tony wasn't too pleased with this movie.
Oh, that's great.
Which may explain why he didn't show up to accept his Best Director
He did not
award.
show up to accept it. And also, I love the fact that he's judging people who gush to him about his movie. On a number of levels, that's really great. And so if you're deciding about whether to be friends with someone who's watched this movie, you need to at least have the same opinion about it, probably. We won't say you need to have a certain opinion, but the same.
Yes. Yeah, maybe you love this movie,
Maybe.
in which case we apologise because we did not enjoy it.
Well, they won't even get half an hour into our podcast.
No.
If you do love this movie, you've probably already checked out.
Yeah, sorry about that. So do we have any interesting facts about this movie?
So apparently there's a singer called Tom Jones,
is a
which
singer.
we knew about. He was born with a different name, Thomas Woodward, but he did take his name from this movie.
Yeah, that's a very strange choice from him.
Strange choice.
Yes. And maybe he took it from the book. Let's say he
maybe.
took it from... Maybe he was a foundling and he decided, I'll
Maybe.
take it from the book. I did do a quick bit of research from other movies of the era he might have chosen instead to take his name. He's assuming he wanted to keep Tom as a first name.
Right.
He could have gone with Tom Sawyer. There was a Tom Sawyer movie
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Could have gone with Tom Thumb. There was a Tom Thumb movie out. And of course, we did watch Peeping Tom. So
Yes.
if he wanted to have a music career as Peeping Tom, he could have gone ahead with that.
All of
as
those
well.
would have been better choices.
Yes. I did also learn that the movie was reissued in 1989 and the director, who, as we mentioned, perhaps had second thoughts about some of the things in this movie, he did a director's cut on this reissue. He removed 7 minutes from the original, which I think was the version we watched because we watched one just a little over 2 hours.
I find it surprising that the director actually could sit through it to rewatch it enough to do a director's cut.
Yeah, I still think he could have removed at least another 117 minutes,
Yes.
bring it down to just a few minutes long.
Yep, enough. So as we mentioned, the movie was quite long. The book is also quite long. Apparently in the adaptation, John Osborne cut out a lot of the elements and kind of zipped through the heart of the plot.
Yes.
Did he vanish the plot? Was there actually a plot perhaps that just got...
I mean, I think you've got, him, something stolen that would prove his right to that he wasn't a bastard after all, and then he has to run around the countryside and shag people and do all that. I think that's kind of the core of the plot of the book. and then there's all kinds of other stuff in there. Apparently the book, and I haven't read the book, but apparently it's like a major satire. It broke comedic ground in terms of literature, and as you have the opportunity to do in 1749. So I think the idea with this was that and I don't know whose idea it was, whether it was the screenwriter or the director or perhaps both, was that they were going to try and use a whole heap of comedic techniques in the movie as well. Not wit or cleverness or anything, just the very basic comedic techniques.
Just throw a bunch of things at the wall.
Yeah. Well, quite literally, they broke the fourth wall in doing so. They had a narrator commenting on the plot as they went along. You had the silent film homage at the very beginning. Other techniques, there was kind of snapshots of actors pulling funny faces, fast forward footage, lots and lots of slapstick. And so I think that was the idea, that we're going to kind of be a tribute to this book with all these
they had scene transitions, didn't they? Swiped scene transitions like a 1990s PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, exactly, yeah. It certainly doesn't work to my mind.
No.
Just made the entire thing look like a mess.
And is that what they were awarded on, the fact that they tried innovative techniques? I mean, there might have been another director around that was using innovative techniques in a movie in 1963.
Maybe? Yeah, you
maybe.
never know. Anyway,
far more innovative techniques. Anyway, I also couldn't tell. I mean, they couldn't tell the story effectively by script or camera, so they're resorting to this terrible omniscient narrator who was incredibly intrusive. Just tell the story.
Yes. I mean, you can do a comedic narrator, but this just didn't work.
The narrator didn't say anything clever.
Yeah, exactly. The narrator needs to undercut what's going on, which, it didn't really work in this one.
I mean, despite all this, audiences loved it.
It was a massive hit.
The critics loved it, and I mean...
The 60s were weird. Lots of drugs being taken in the 60s.
By the time people got to television and this was overdone, then maybe people got a bit more sick of it. Maybe it was innovative at the time, and then television came along and did it all the time, and that was the end of it.
Yeah. And, a lot of television would have done it a lot better as well, or just as bad. I mean, you do have things like the Benny Hill Show. This reminded me of just the Benny Hill Show.
It was like the Benny Hill Show, yeah.
Anyway, it was still popular enough these days that at the turn of the century, it was named by the British Film Institute as the 51st best British film ever.
Ugh, were there only 51 movies ever made?
Apparently. Anyway, The Third Man, which we've watched, is number 1. Hitch first appears. He's at number 4 for The 39 Steps. And then he also pops up a little bit later at number 35 for The Lady Vanishes. So he at least beats this movie on those two movies, I guess. So there's something. What were the best lines of this movie, Kat?
Well, this movie was exhausting because people just yelled at each other most of the time, and then dogs started barking, and then we'd get bawdy organ grinder music, and I'm not sure I discerned a single line that I would remember.
Yeah.
I think there was one line where we laughed.
There was one that actually made me laugh out loud, and that was such a surprise that I jotted it down because there was a brief scene where a stand and deliver scene, basically a horse and carriage trotting along, and then some inept highwayman comes along and tries to rob them, and the woman in the carriage just refuses to be a part of it. She says, "No, I won't stand, I won't deliver." And the exact dialogue is quite amusing, and it lasted for about 30 seconds, and that was the peak of the entire movie.
That's right. Her delivery was pretty good, and the whoever the highwayman was pretty good. I think it was comedic timing there.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, nothing to do with the direction or the script or anything else.
I think the highwayman turned out to be the dude who was accused of being Tom Jones's father. I think that was a bit of a plot twist there. But anyway, it was very dull. And there's been better versions of those kind of scenes anyway. I mean, there's the Dennis Moore sketch from Monty Python, which does the exact same thing except about 1,000 times better. So even the best bits have been effortlessly trumped.
So the Bechdel test, does it pass?
Well, according to the Bechdel test website, it does, but there's no information on that, and I find that impossible to believe. So
do any of the women talk? They mostly yell at each other.
There's a lot of yelling. I think you've got to talk
Let's assume
properly.
they didn't. Anyway, they have to be clothed in something, and then most of the women were not clothed.
Yes.
There were a lot of women who didn't wear pants, which we know is a criteria.
Yes. What about modern technology impacting, improving, or changing the plot?
I don't think anything could impact or improve or change the plot.
I did think at one point in the movie, speaking of Benny Hill, they did speed up the film while everybody was running around. And I think a more modern version could speed up not just that scene, but the entire film. Yes. And these days you could speed it up a lot. Like if it's a digital, you can just go really, like you could speed it up and get the whole thing done in like 10 seconds. Yeah. So that would change the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's not a change of the plot, but it would still improve the film.
Improve the film for sure. And then, of course, we could have some DNA testing of Tom Jones's parentage, and he might have sent off to one of those websites and found out that he was actually related to probably most of the people in the movie, considering he was rooting around so much.
Yep. Anyway, sort his paternity out early in the movie, in the opening scene. That's also a good thing. Basically, anything to end this movie as quickly as possible.
He was almost certainly related to the woman he was in love with as well, we presume.
Yes.
Oh, dear. What about, I dread to ask, were there any tributes, homages, misguided remakes?
Yes. Well, there were kind of pre-makes because the book was made into an opera way back in 1765. Then later again in 1907. So
I can imagine it would be quite successful as a 1700s opera.
Yeah, perhaps, yes. After this movie, there was a radio version almost the year after, 1964, then a stage adaptation in 66 and a musical film in 1976, and then a BBC adaptation in 1997 and a TV miniseries in 2023.
So I think I've heard of that TV miniseries. Anyway, we will not seek it out.
No, we won't. But I think my favourite of all the follow-ups was in 2020. It was announced that the book would be adapted into a jukebox musical, and the hook of this jukebox musical was that the music would all be from Tom Jones, the singer, and the musical would be called "What's New Pussycat." So it's the Tom Jones plot with music by Tom Jones, but called "What's New Pussycat," set in the 1960s for some reason. And that sounds delightfully mad.
Yeah.
But you probably noticed that was in 2020. So the original performance was cancelled due to the pandemic, but it did return in late 2021 for a brief run. So it didn't last, sadly, but it sounds like a crazy idea.
That then reminds me that what could improve the plot here, and one thing would be a pandemic that prevented this music from, prevented this movie from ever being made.
Yeah. Yes. That would also get the job done.
And I wondered, what even is a jukebox musical?
Oh, a jukebox. Yeah. Oh, do you know?
Oh, yeah, I looked it up, but you tell me what it is.
So a jukebox musical is basically a musical based on the music from a particular artist. So there's like the ABBA one, there was a Queen one. There's you need to have an artist with lots and lots of hits, and then they kind of reverse engineer a script around it to justify singing all the songs.
There you go.
So should we go through the Hitchcock movie checklist?
Yeah, let's do that.
Might be a bit tougher than usual because we didn't pay that much attention to the plot, but we'll note what we spotted in the first half hour.
These conclusions will be wildly inaccurate.
Yeah. Was there a MacGuffin?
Well, maybe who Tom Jones' parents were.
Yeah.
Or perhaps which woman he would get pregnant. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Any of these things.
We didn't spot a cameo from Tony Richardson, but there was a big deer hunt with 1,000 people running around. He could easily have been on a horse.
I love the fact that he doesn't even cameo at the Oscars when he won one.
Yeah. Is there a mother character?
Not really. There's some kind of aunt at some point.
Yeah, I think she's the one who gets refuses to be robbed by the highwayman, I think. So.
I found all the families incredibly confusing. I could never work out whose father was who or whose mother was who. There was one father that was just terrible and ate really poorly, and it's like, was that the love interest's father?
I think so. I don't know. Birds and animals?
Oh, loads. I mean,
all being killed by hunters.
Yes, more dogs and birds than people. And we saw some gruesome shots too of the various animals being killed. It was foul.
Yeah. Basically skip through all the rest because I assume there was a chair fight at some point.
Oh, there was almost certainly. There was something in a bar. There was something with a soldier.
Yeah.
Was there a visual sex reference?
The literal sex references.
That's right. There were actual
sex references.
Actual sex.
Yeah.
And what about the other tropes? What did you find? This could be quite amusing, I'm sure.
I only picked out the ones that related to things that I remember seeing. So the Florence Nightingale effect, of course. Sophie only falls in love with him because he breaks his arm and she has to look after him. The gross-up close-up, as you mentioned at the end of the hunt, we do get lots of close-ups of this deer being torn apart by dogs or a bird or a rabbit or something. Idiosyncratic wipes, so lots of strange wipe transition things, as you mentioned, straight out of PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And then only a flesh wound, which was where she says, "Mr. Jones, you've broken your arm." And she says, "Indeed, madam, but I have another to walk you home." So there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
So now it's time to see how could the Birds have possibly beaten Tom Jones to win an Oscar?
I mean, you don't even want to be in the same stadium as Tom Jones. You don't want to be up against. So I think the Birds did very well to go nowhere near this.
Yeah, if this is what the Academy was voting for this year, then full credit to Hitch for missing out this time around.
I would have loved the Birds at some point to descend on Tom Jones at any stage, actually, and kill all of the characters.
Yeah, well, I think there were just too many hunters. Like they were prepared to shoot any birds that arrived.
That's right. So we needed more hunters, didn't we?
We definitely needed more hunters. So I think at some point, Mitch from the Birds should have just organised a hunting expedition, chase down all the birds, shoot them all, make a gross scene about it all, probably eat them all in a disgusting fashion. Yeah. So that's something Hitch should have done if he wanted to get an Oscar. Obviously, he needed to abandon all subtlety to his humour, gone completely over the top with slapstick. Break the fourth wall occasionally.
Yeah. Dreadful wipes in between shots.
All that kind of stuff. He needed much more of that. Mitch probably needed to have sex with everybody.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, he was already having sex with two of the characters, so it wouldn't have taken much more. The old woman in the farmhouse would have been. Yep. Who else?
The woman at the diner who gives the lecture on the birds. Melanie's mother. I think he just needed to be jumping in.
Basically everyone that he bumped into.
But still, importantly, he needs to proclaim his love for Melanie the whole time he's shagging all these other people.
Absolutely. Melanie, she was in that green suit the whole time. She just needed to be in a corset the whole time.
Yes. Need far more of her bosom showing to attract the Academy's attention this time around. So anything else that Hitch could have done to get an Oscar?
No, nothing.
I don't think so. So I think that brings us pretty much to the end. We know this is shorter than our usual fare, but there's not a lot to say about this. It's just not great.
No.
Where do we rank Tom Jones against all the other Oscar movies?
We rank it right at the bottom.
I rank it right at the bottom, yes.
Tom Jones, worse than Marty in my eyes.
Yeah. So Tom Jones moves straight to the bottom of the list. I can't really see anything toppling it from that spot. Or what's the opposite of topple for something at the bottom? Raising it from that spot, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So our next movie will be the fourth best Hitchcock movie as voted on by our listeners. And the cryptic clue was to grieve endlessly and with abandon because of this movie. And Dan is going to explain this to us now.
Well, to grieve endlessly means you take the last letter off to grieve, which leaves you with the letters TOGRIEV. With abandon is an anagram indicator, so you have to rearrange those letters. And if you rearrange those letters, I think you pretty quickly come to the word vertigo. So
it's not Psycho, is it?
It's not Psycho. No, it's Vertigo. So that's what we'll be doing, a rewatch of Vertigo from 1958.
And originally you ranked this number 11. I don't love it as much. I ranked it at 17, but perhaps our opinions will change on the rewatch. So we will let you know next month.
Yeah, will either of us bump it into the top 10?
You never know.
You never know. So anyway, if you have any questions or feedback on Vertigo, feel free to email them in, feedback@hitchpodonline.com. We will do our best to answer them in the next episode. It is based on a French book, D'Entre les Morts, and translated to English as The Living and the Dead in 1956. If we can find this book, if it's easy to find, we will do a book club over on Patreon. You can join us there for that and all the other bonuses you get on Patreon for just $2 a month. And otherwise, we will speak to you next month.
See you then. Thank you for listening to HitchPod. Please come and talk to us on
Blue Sky
at
HitchPodOnline.com
or on Facebook by searching for HitchPod. And you can also email us directly at feedback@hitchpodonline.com. And if you want more Hitchcock content, please consider becoming a HitchPod supporter. Just go to patreon.com/HitchPod. And for as little as $2 a month, you can get access to our Season 1 coverage of every single Hitchcock movie, as well as bonus episodes on Hitchcock-esque movies. Invitations also to watch live rewatches and much, much more.